So, in case of this structural institutional aspect, the civil society organizations are still registered under Society Registration Act plus various laws which are very old. Like Society Registration Act 1860, let's say, so it's very old structure. So their structure itself has problem, because they are registered as per society registration, the legal aspect, old structure. The old structure, then meanwhile things have changed. Meanwhile you have governance. Governance, emphasis on equal stakeholder. Therefore, their structure should also change, so that there is certain, let's say, we create internal checks and balances. For instance, let's see Companies Act. The Companies Act 1956, why Companies Act changed? Why we needed a new Company Act 2013? And what is the difference between Companies Act 2013 and Companies Act 1956? Right. So the difference is that structurally, if you remember corporate governance, so what we have told, corporate governance has its structure. Right. How an organization should be structured. It talks about CEO, chairperson, board of directors, structure aspect. So that's why, let's say, we need to change the Society Registration Act. Either it should be changed or reformed, so that the structure of NGOs is also defined. We adopt a very different structure, a structure which should present. Like NGOs should also have, let's say if there is an NGO, what should be the structure of that NGO in terms of the relationship between the head of the NGO, the person who is head of that, how NGO takes decision, its decision making body. So, and in that decision making body, whether you should have members also from outside. Let's say we have cooperatives. The cooperatives, and they define the body structure of the cooperatives. Similarly, for NGO also, structural changes you need to bring, so that at inherent level you start promoting transparency and accountability. That is called, let's say, the first aspect. Now the second aspect is called HR aspect, human resource practices. Now human resource practices, that there should be standardization of human resource practices. Like the way you have media, there is law. Law has Bar Council of India. In media also there is journalist, and let's say a person should have a qualification. The then person is considered fit for that. In fact, you should know that in media and in law, the person is, let's say, person practices law only when the person gets registered with Bar Council of India. Similarly, in media, when we teach, so media we teach that in media also journalist, let's say, there should be also media council, and they should be registered the way law in Bar Council you have. That is one such reform in media talked. Why? You want to enhance the standard of human resource. Right. Similarly, in NGO sector, there should be, let's say, that standardization of human resource. Their personal practices, that is called how they hire people, whom they hire people, and their, let's say, that responsibility, quality. There should be, emphasis on HR practices in NGOs, so that you can have, you can hire good people in NGO. Like we will teach, when we will teach you that rehabilitation, in case of rehabilitation, let's say TIS. So let's say TIS, the TIS cannot hire any person. It has, let's say, some proper, it has its own qualification, some standards like this. So similarly, NGOs should also, let's say, if there is standardization of HR practices, it will bring good people in NGOs. But that should be related to HR practices. When we talk about transparency and accountability, so transparency accountability means, let's say, it is linked to this factor that they should also maintain proper account The proper account they should maintain. There should be audit done. The proper auditing should be done. Then they should be having application to RTI, transparency. Simply the sources of funding, the sources of fund, the fund utilization. Now you compare with this called exposure. A company should have financial disclosures. This is how it is said. A company has financial disclosure as per the Companies Act to maintain transparency. Similarly, NGOs, whether they have financial disclosures. Right. Application of RTI is not the, let's say, the only thing. Means even if we do not apply RTI, still there can be transparency. Let's do not treat transparency equal to RTI. That we have told while teaching RTI. So the question is that you have to bring financial disclosure. They have to maintain certain standardized accounting. There should be independent audit, and this will not possible unless you bring change here. Unless we bring change in institutional structure, legal aspect, there will not be this transparency in terms of accounting, auditing and financial disclosure. Right. As of now, government is having this kind of thing only related to NGO getting foreign funding under Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. But that's not the solution for all NGOs. Right. Because only those NGOs which are getting foreign fund, they are supposed to maintain website, they are supposed to get registered, they are supposed to file ITR, other, let's say, conditions. But NGO as such, let's say that as an institution, as an organization, that is how they have to, let's say that bring this. Then code of ethics, as we told in ethics in governance. Ethics in governance. Now let's take media. Why we are comparing all these things? Because if you remember different organizations, so that day we told while teaching in theory section that it can be government, it can be private, it can be NGO, civil society organizations, private, public, even I will write, let's say, media. It has its own code of ethics. Media has its own code of ethics. Media has adopted self-regulation. You should know this. There is self-regulation by media. It has journalistic association. So it has also adopted a code of ethics. Government has its own law to regulate, but it has also adopted its own code of ethics so that it should guide. Similarly, there is, let's say that corporate governance or ethics in business that we talk for corporate sector. We have several concepts also, compassionate capitalism and others sort of, let's say, capitalism. But for civil society, so far you do not have any talk on code of ethics. What code of ethics they should adhere, their members should adhere, organizations should adhere, and they have themselves not come forward for that. In other sectors they have come forward, there is debate on that. They will adhere, like say Narayan Murthy coming forward saying that we should have compassionate capitalism. But tell me in any civil society a person has come forward and told that civil society should adhere such kind of ethics and standards. Right. So that has been lacking in civil society field. That's why recently there was one conference held internationally, and there was debate on adoption of code of ethics for civil society. This, or even ARC second has recommended in ethics in governance that all organizations should have code of ethics. Let's say even they should have also code of ethics, and that's why we here you should talk about code of ethics for civil society organization.